Om Shanti, good evening. Welcome to this session of Interview with the Raj Yogi. And our theme tonight is the power of lightness. As usual, we'll start with a reflection. I go inside and reflect on the subject of lightness, seeing what images naturally come into my mind as symbols of lightness. Might be a feather, a balloon, a bird, the sun, even just the color white. Throughout time, throughout cultures, common experiences of lightness. As if it's known to every soul, a deep memory, something we pursue. And connected to freedom. The freedom or lightness of being. Sometimes we feel heavy and start to list all the things outside that we feel made us this way, made us heavy. Different people, scenes, situations. But in truth, it's because of losing the power to let go. Everything out there comes and goes. I am the one that holds on and becomes heavy. Nothing out there is holding on to me. This power of letting go to become light. Even now, as I sit here imagining the hand of my mind opening, becoming an open mind, opening the fingers of the mind, letting go of the day, letting go of just a second ago. And in that freedom, I create space for peace, simplicity, to wash into the mind. Lightness attracts so much peace. Just opening the hand of the mind in this moment. letting go in order to hold peace. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Welcome to Interview with Raj Yogi. If you have just joined, tonight's topic is the power of lightness. So I know a few sessions ago you had mentioned about one virtue that's on the card that sometimes can be challenging for some, politeness. Sometimes I think lightness can fall in that category too, in the sense that maybe it seems like a quality that many don't feel they can attain, or it can often sometimes be mistaken for being apathetic or not taking things seriously. So what is your experience of lightness? And I think sometimes maybe when we have a chance, each of us, to think about it, reflect on it, it obviously clarifies those things. So. I think if we're honest, we like to be around people that are light. And as we go into the study, we realize that lightness is a sign of being very spiritually mature, quite spiritually developed. Because lightness actually comes out of that wisdom. So we say that an enlightened soul, there's quite a few concepts of lightness that intersect in spirituality. So when something is light or fair, we say it's pure. When it's enlightened or wise, again, there's light. And of course, not holding on to the past, able to become light, so free. So there's lots of beautiful aspects of spirituality that intersect around lightness. But one who has that enlightenment, that wisdom at a very deep level, they can keep things in perspective. It's not that they're not serious, they're actually just wise. So they know what is important to carry and what is not important, and most things are not important. So they lead a very simple, and yet there's a depth or maturity or wisdom to such a soul. Just hearing you share is just making me think of sometimes the dynamics, and I guess it can really be any kind of situation, even though this phrase we often hear it in a workplace, but the whole project versus people, or projects over people. But how does lightness play a role in terms of that wisdom? How does that affect relationships in general, whether it's workplace or not, but just when things still need to happen? Today was very, very beautiful. The class, the focus we had. And all through the day I was thinking about it, and the phrase that kept coming to me was, trust the invisible. And so I think someone who is light has excellent, if you will, depth perception. They can see what really matters and what does not matter. And there's a farsightedness to that. And the things that really matter are invisible. So, for example, it's not so much the car that matters, but the being inside the car. But we can get mixed up very, very easily and get caught up in minutiae and short-term objectives and then ego, and it goes on and on. But someone who's a true leader will really keep their eye on what's important. And again, it's the invisible, it's the well-being of the souls around them that's the most important. And when souls experience that, then something called cooperation, you actually get far more, if it's of interest, productivity out of such souls. So it's a win-win all round. But I have to know what to focus on, and it's always the invisible that rules. So I think someone who's light, again, has that wisdom to know what's important, what's not important, and to really nurture what is important, knowing that the details, it's a ongoing battle between quality and quantity. And the wise one focuses on quality, knowing that quantity automatically will come at the right time. So I think it's about trusting what is invisible.
Do you feel it's a question then about sustainability, choosing quality over quantity? I don't want this to feel like we're detracting from the topic, but it does feel like it's absolutely related.
Well, it is, because the other topic in my mind today was about clean energy. It was clean heart, but operating on clean energy. And more, I think we're all realizing that solar energy in the physical sense is the cleanest, but the energy of light is also, spiritually speaking, that spiritual lightness. So it's sustainable. It's sustainable scientifically, if we look at a very gross example of solar energy, but as a metaphor, spiritually, the energy of lightness is clean energy, and clean energy is always sustainable. What that means is that a light soul, their heart is light because they're operating in such a clean way. They know that to compromise their values for a short-term goal, which is not clean energy, not a clean way to go about things, will fall apart in the long run. So in the short run, it's like, I'll make this choice. It may look funny in the short run, but I'm doing it with a clean heart. And anything done with a truthful or light or clean heart with clean energy is very far-sighted. In the short run, it might look a little bit funny, but definitely far-sighted. So we have that saying, the boat of truth may rock, but it will never sink. Whereas the boat of falsehood looks pretty stable, but it's going down. So in the short run, it's like, this looks like the sure thing. But I just have to, tell a little lie or compromise or not say anything. But it will fall apart very quickly. Whereas if I'm very clean, my heart will be light and it will be sustainable.
It's interesting you're sharing that, and I remember there was a moment I was speaking to somebody and understand that she was in a very difficult situation, working for an immigrant serving agency, very limited in terms of the number of interpreters available, but they have a huge need. And the conversation came where is it just enough to have family members to do the interpretation when there's perhaps maybe a lot of details could be left out. Anyways, we were talking about that, and she got pretty upset with me because she was saying, but that in this sense, quantity matters. We don't have time to sit here and train enough individuals because there's so many individuals waiting. And I know that's just an example, but I can see where we have that sort of running through our heads through the day with moments where it's like, in this moment, I have to be able to do this. In that moment, I have to, again, trade off what, at that moment, it's like as if you don't have the power. So this aspect about lightness, during the reflection, I was reflecting on, the power to be able to become light. The power to choose something that might seem like as if, as you were saying, it looks strange to begin with and may not even seem like it's productive.
Yeah, so we talked about one of the spiritual concepts that lightness represents is purity. So it has historically, when something is pure, it's shown as light or fair. And not to be taken literally, but that's just been a symbolic rendering of purity. And so we're really talking about the power of purity when we're talking about the power of lightness. And the power of purity means, this is where it comes into a clean heart, it means that there's nothing impure mixed into my intentions or actions. So I am not being motivated by ego or fear or worry or insecurity or anger or any of it. It's very, very clean or pure. And the power of purity is absolutely remarkable. It will always, wherever it is, 100% create benevolent outcomes. But we don't trust it, right? Or we don't feel we have the time, or we don't, we're right now in an ongoing journey of this type of thinking where it's trying to vaccinate as many as possible, as quickly as possible, and it's just causing constant waves of concern. So I think, if we can just trust this purity, that always checking my own heart and feeling that there's a power in that to create a benevolent outcome. Again, there'll be lots of pressure from ego, from desires, from attachments, really pressing down on the soul, trying to encourage us to do something else. And that's why I need the power to kind of not succumb to those and really trust the pure intention, the clean heart, really trust that. And it is perhaps one of the biggest objectives of spirituality, is learning to trust purity as a way of operating, and to have the power to not to succumb to the bullying, if you will, of ego, etc. Just worry, anxiety, time, whatever the case may be.
We have so many beautiful and amazing examples of the students in the beginning days where perhaps, of course, there's probably the bullying inside in terms of the ego and so forth and expectations, but that was quite overt as well in terms of the outside. But just listening to you share about the power of the invisible. Do you recall, in terms of the impact that just a few individuals to have that kind of courage, how that can actually affect others who might not be able to have the courage to do that?
I think, it might be my own opinion, but as an organization, we do believe that every single soul is intrinsically good, that we all start our journeys pure. And then as we go along, every single one of us starts to lose that purity, and it's completely understandable, and it's the way it's supposed to go. But if that is the case, then inside each of us, there must be, it's like home to us, this purity. There must be a love of purity. And I think sometimes in different situations, souls are just waiting for someone to take that stand of purity, and then they're kind of on board. So I am remembering as you share, and I'm not going to come out looking very good in this example, but I've shared before, junior high, that's the age, we call it loss of innocence, as you go into adolescence. And this is when the peer pressure, etc., comes in. And it's embarrassing to think of some of the things that I did as I was losing that purity. But I remember there was one soul, and it was completely arbitrary who souls chose to pick on. And it wasn't so much that I was in any way insulting or picking on the soul, but I wasn't defending them. And we know that's, I would always befriend them, but if they were being attacked in some way, even their own brother didn't help them out. It was horrible. Anyways, I'll never forget, there was one day when, again, souls were, for whatever reason, and one of the souls who were in the so-called popular group, I don't know what came over her, but it was wonderful. And she basically was chastising everybody else. She'd never done this before. Just stood up and chastised everyone for giving this soul a difficult time. And I remember going to stand beside her, and I thought, this is pathetic. This is what I should have been done. But at least I can support her in this effort. But I realized how powerful she was, that everyone kind of was waiting for someone to say something sensible like this. And immediately it changed things. We were just waiting for one person to take a sensible stand. So I think souls are really, it's like there's an elephant in the room and they're waiting for someone to say, there's an elephant in the room. We need to sort of take this pure route. And I'm remembering as well, and it doesn't have to be, anything that dramatic, but I'm remembering a meeting once, and I was there as a volunteer, and it was some sort of committee, workplace well-being or something like this, and they'd done surveys, and, these committees get very action and outcome oriented. Again, the quantity shows some quantifiable results. And it was our first meeting. And immediately they started to jump into actions. And I sat through the meeting and literally was having difficulty grasping, even though I speak English, and I couldn't grasp. And at the end, and I had debated whether or not to say anything, but at the end they asked any comments. I said, I'm not sure I'm the right person to, even though I'm a volunteer, to be on this committee because I don't actually know what we're doing. I feel we've missed a few steps. And I often am the one who's saying, I feel we've missed a few steps. So we never took the time to establish the quality, the vision. We never we immediately, there's so much pressure from ego, etc. And we never, I don't know what the vision is. I don't know what the root system is of this. And I personally find it very challenging without knowing that to leap into actions and outcomes. And I remember the chair looked at me for a while and she said, yeah, we need to look at that. And so she put aside all of her sheets and I was absolutely in awe. It was such a courageous thing to do. But I think we're always waiting for someone we want to operate in a clean way. We don't want to feel the force of these different forces that we know. I mean, how can ego ever lead somewhere benevolent? We know that. But again, is the power there? And yes, I think one person taking a stand can create a drag that brings others with them.
It's very inspiring, especially listening to you share it. It's very true that you're right. Probably everyone is just waiting because they aren't able to. And that's why, so many beautiful stories, and they come in movies and all that, beautiful endings. But I think it's really at the heart of every soul, not perhaps able to break out of that jail. Mm-hmm. So in terms of lightness, and then, because I was thinking about, again, just with the reflection, it seems like there needs to be power to even understand, as you were talking about knowledge, that I need to be able to be enlightened. And could it also go in that place where it just sort of sits in your mind? It's like you want to understand, whether it's understand your story or the bigger picture, and you're still not really able to really be light.
Mm-hmm. I think that when the light goes off, one is light. So I think the issue, understanding can create a lightness, a capacity to let go, but there's perhaps a timing to it or an accuracy of packaging. It needs to come in the right form. But the biggest challenge is being able to accept this new information that could really shift my understanding. We get the biggest thing we're holding on to is attachment to old ideas that are keeping me heavy and stuck. So it's really, this is the challenge, because the moment I accept, it's like I let go. I understand things in a different way. Immediately I let go. So this attachment to old ideas is quite strong. And so how to shift that is huge. And I think there's there's various factors that can affect that shift, but top of the list, I think, is timing. But yeah, maybe it's not delivered in the right way, the information that's meaningful to the soul, but often it's just not the right time. The soul isn't ready. But if the soul can, if I can accept a new perspective, a new way of seeing things, and that really can create a natural letting go, a release.
It's interesting just when you were sharing about timing and readiness. I was probably thinking about simultaneously when you're sharing about how we take for granted a lot of things, and perhaps maybe even, do I feel I need lightness in my life? Do I feel that should be a priority? I think sometimes we just try harder and harder, and it has just slipped on my mind what our previous topic was, but the same idea that we don't really forgiveness, and we don't really think about how important some of these things are, but not about going at them directly again, but it's this aspect about the integrity of our sense of self, and perhaps our focus is oftentimes on the wrong things.
Yeah, something that we all might succumb to, and I found one of the most intriguing things about a spiritual study like Raj Yoga. We call it this idea of aim and objective, that we want to reach a certain objective, a certain experience, but we're kind of not using the right method to get there. And then we're a bit shocked when it doesn't work out well. So, it's, and of course I see this many times in the physical fitness realm, of souls doing things, and it's not going to get them where they want to go. But this can really happen in any aspect of our life, that we're, again, holding on to an idea, this is what I have to do to reach that objective. And, it's funny, I was just thinking a lot, this lightness. Everybody loves lightness. If we, it's freedom that we're talking about. And so it's very important. It's really what people are pursuing. They always want that freedom. And, so many times souls were saying, I want to do this, I want to do that, but I don't have time. And then, this situation emerged in the drama, and there was lots of time. And yet souls, again, it's a power. There was not enough power to do the things they wanted to do. It wasn't about time at all. It was just about not having the power to really move in the direction they want to. So we can say, okay, I just need to clear these things off my plate, and then I can be free. It's like the things on the plate aren't what's creating the heaviness. And once they're cleared off, and I'm still heavy, then I can...
Or you'll just put more things on your plate anyway.
Or, yeah, I might just add others. So it's very thought-provoking if we can look objectively at the self. But in general, yes, I think everyone really pursues... We say it's the top thing that souls are looking for, is liberation or lightness.
On a practical level, have you felt lightness for yourself increase during your study in Raj Yoga?
Yeah, one of the... And I think it's at the beginning you said, perhaps it's considered fluffy or not serious, but one of the indicators that we use for spiritual progress is happiness. Am I happier? Which is connected to lightness as well. And I think, this easiness, this happiness, not in an insulting way, not, being happy at the expense of someone's sorrow, but just being able to move through things very easily, not to take that sorrow in, or to become heavy when things happen, but to be able to move through things easily because I'm lightened of the load, liberated from ego. I think that's always an indicator that we're looking at. It's said that in an ideal world, a utopian world, no one ever cries. So, and you think, well, are they never feeling? They feel so much. They're so happy, but they feel no sorrow. And so we're always looking, am I becoming lighter and lighter, less affected, less reactive, less, trapped by things that happen? Is that going on? Am I able to, let the past, even a moment ago, it's gone. I'm not carrying baggage with me from one scene to the next. And some say, but don't I want to carry happy memories? Well, what's going on? First off, if I'm happy in this moment, I don't need memories to make me happy. But I think we have to look honestly, because very often our happy memories are connected to ego or to attachment. The happy memories around our attachments or happy memories around our achievements. So we just have to look carefully at what constitutes a happy memory for ourselves. But the question is, am I happy in this moment? Am I fully present in this moment? Am I light in this moment? So always watching that. Am I less affected by things and letting the past be the past?
No, I know I mentioned about it, perhaps maybe the last question before we go on reflection, but as you also had mentioned about my comment about politeness from the last time, is one of those things, as you were saying, it's often seen as fluffy. And I guess for my next question, I don't even know if it can really be an experiential question or if it just sort of, again, sits just in our head versus something that we can really feel is possible. Is the question about, is it possible to be light and still genuine?
Yeah. Because, it's this idea of being connected to purity. I think that there would actually be, if it's the real deal, there would be more authenticity than someone who's not light because it's connected to purity. So there's less illusion going on in what I'm doing, less hidden agendas, if you will. But yeah, I think some people try to be light. So the question with any source of energy, including lightness, is what's the origin of that lightness? Is if there's lightness out of what we call ego or body consciousness or image, then yes, it would seem disgenuine. But if what's driving the lightness is the sense of that very free experience of being a soul, if that's what's driving, then I think it would be very genuine, sincere.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. And perhaps maybe that's what the same thing with politeness or lightness. Souls are just having, just a recollection of maybe previous experiences when it's not real. And so then we just sort of look at these beautiful qualities and not really see the depth of what is the foundation behind them.
Yeah, again, as we said at the beginning, I've just noticed that, it's very funny when we look at the senior students of this organization, and souls look at them and they're a bit confused because they have remarkable depth and wisdom, and yet they're almost childlike, as well at the same time. It's sort of like, when I think of someone like Dadi Prakashmani, she was so light. So light. This is the head of a multinational corporation. So light. And it was difficult sometimes to think, is she, are there issues that she's dealing with during the day? Someone else must be doing that. Maybe little Mohini, that's what she's there for. Because it was very difficult to think of her dealing with. I knew there were huge issues she'd have to deal with. But you never got the feeling because she was so light and playful and almost childlike. So you'll see this really odd blend, which is a sign it's the real thing, is this incredible lightness and easiness. We say carefree, and yet this depth, this wisdom, this maturity, this incredible balance. So to think that lightness is disconnected from seriousness isn't really understanding spirituality, because it always happens in these balances, always. It's not the real thing if the balancer isn't there. So a light soul is extremely deep and mature.
Well, thank you, Judy. And what we will focus on next week for part 2 is really, again, the how. Really appreciating that this is, again, all the qualities are important, but the how is really something that we really need to put some attention to. So we'll just have a little reflection now.
Sometimes time is very light and it just flies by. And that's what happened here. I bring into my mind's eye the image of an infant and what I experience when I look into the eyes of an infant. There is, of course, purity, and I feel there's so much light. They're not trying to be light. They just are light. As if their mind and heart are not yet touched by the illusions of roles and responsibilities, mine and yours. There's so much truth in the eyes of an infant, and it has the power to make us light. We learn lightness after it's lost. We reconnect with it whenever we experience the truth. Pull back the curtain of illusions. The truth around I and mine. I am a soul, a traveler through time, and therefore nothing here, nothing temporary, is really mine. It comes and goes, and I travel lightly when I remember I am a soul. Everything I need I can find within the self. But when I forget, succumb to illusions, I start to lose that lightness. Experiencing the truth reignites the light. Om Shanti.
Well, thank you for those who've joined. Once again, if you ever have questions, we do have the chat box in front of us, or you're welcome to email us questions or topics you wish to cover in these sessions. And thank you, Judy, for the reflection and the beautiful, thoughtful answers, and I'll pass it over to you about upcoming sessions.
I might need help.
Happy to.
So I think we have a workshop coming on Saturday from 12 to 1:30, and it's very nice because it's about the lightness within. So this is going to happen on YouTube or even Zoom. Okay. So it's going to be in real time on Zoom. You can find the link on our website, but we will record the session, and so it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel as well. But feel free to join on Zoom in real time, because then there can be that interaction. So the information is on the website, and then we will continue to have drop-in meditation Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays this month, exploring themes in celebration of Shivaratri, different aspects or attributes of the Supreme Soul. I believe that's it. There is so much more, actually. I know there's many courses on the website, so please feel free to go there and look and see what's going on. There is Hindi speaking, there's inner fitness, there's a lot, self-care, a lot. So choose what is useful for you. Om Shanti.